Hello, I'm Tommy Henderson with Henderson's Lineup and Super Steer, and I'm really excited today to bring to you the first installation at our shop of our new Super Steer SS88-1889 shocks for the Sprinter 3500 chassis. This is for Class C motorhomes, two-wheel drive, where you're looking to take care of that rocking sensation back and forth. We've partnered with Koni, as we've discussed in previous videos, to come out with a custom valved adjustable rear shock. And today I'm going to be showing you where to set that adjustment depending on your preference and how to install them. So I've got our installation instructions here, which come with every set of these shocks. And as we note in the instructions, these shocks are adjustable, but they must be fully compressed in order to set that adjustment. It's not something that you can adjust on the fly, and you do really want to set it before you get the shocks installed. So first, we'll just refer to our instructions here. So in order to adjust them, you've got to hold the shock upright, fully collapse it. So it's fully collapsed now. Now you want to turn the body, so the lower half of the shock, counterclockwise until you feel that the cams of the adjustment nut engage, which we do show on our instructions, just a cutaway of what that looks like. So you can see now the shock doesn't want to turn freely. That's because the cam in that adjustment nut is engaged. So normally these shocks will ship fully loose in their adjustment setting. So that's the way these are. I can't turn them any more counterclockwise than they already are. So now you have to decide where you want to set it. So by rotating this shock and counting your turns, that's how you set the tightness of your rebound damping. So to look at some guidelines here, we can take a look at the back page of our adjustment. So we've got a chart here that says, so for the smoothest ride, a comfort setting, somebody who's looking for more control, but they really do want to keep the ride as smooth as possible, you can just install them how they ship, fully loose in the adjustment. You don't actually have to do anything with them in that case. However, if you do want a little bit more than that, we've got a few other suggestions. So one would be a half a turn, and that would provide you with a more of a balanced, like a touring setting. The other would be our performance setting. So that's the best stability. You will have a little bit of a firmer ride, but not excessively so. For that, we would say go a turn and a quarter from the fully loose setting. So looking at this shock, you can see there's not really anything that really tells me, you know, how many turns I have gone. So that's where we would suggest, like, you can hold your finger there just to kind of use the sticker as a reference point. All right, so in my case, I've got a paint stick, so I'm just going to make a mark that goes across from the top half of the shock to the bottom half of the shock. So that's my reference point for fully loose. So now what I'm going to do, since we want to go to our performance setting, again, that's a turn and a quarter clockwise from the loosest setting. I'm going to go one full turn. So there's one full turn, and now I'm going to go a quarter turn beyond that. So there, go to about there. So there's our turn and a quarter adjustment between there and there. Okay, so now my adjustment is set. Now what you want to do is pull that shock apart. Koni says go about a centimeter. So once you get it extended out far enough, now you can turn the shock freely. I'm no longer adjusting it. The lower half of the shock will spin freely. That way your adjustment is set. You're not going to accidentally bump it, get it off in terms of where to adjust it. We've now got both shocks adjusted to a turn and a quarter, so we're now ready to begin our installation process. So to remove the old shocks and install the new ones, you're going to need 21mm wrench. Going to need 21mm socket, either an air impact wrench, electric impact, something to help you. You can do it by hand. It's just going to be a little bit of work. And then a torque wrench to make sure that after you get your new shocks installed that they're torqued to spec. And I should note, we've got our Koni lifts here that make this a heck of a lot easier to install versus laying on the ground, but I have actually done this laying on the ground. It is doable. It's a little bit tight in the back. If you can use ramps to get under there, that does help a bit, but this is a job that really any do-it-yourselfer can do with the proper tools. Okay, now we're going to begin by removing our old shocks. I'm going to start with the passenger side. It's easiest to start with removing the bottom, so we'll just use our impact wrench here. Okay, the bottom's free. You can see these shocks, they have a little bit of gas pressure in them, so they're going to try to expand a little bit. but it's not a whole lot of pressure. Like I can hold it pretty easily, but just something to be aware that they will try to expand. So now we'll do our top mount. This is a little bit trickier because you need to come around to the outside of the subframe. So I've got a long wrench here that'll work pretty well. Get up on the head of the bolt there. So let's make sure that that's not going to fall and hit us. It's still hanging in there okay. So now I'll just slide it off of the bolt. We can leave our top mount bolt installed there. Now here's where you can see just how, I mean, for want of a better term, how wimpy these shocks are. There's just not a whole lot of... Actually, this one feels a little better than the old ones, but I can expand it pretty easily there. Compare that to our new shocks here. It's quite a bit more work to expand that out. Now ours does compress fairly easily, so our shocks are made to be relatively soft in compression and strong in rebound. So the goal here is to give you the best balance of ride and handling possible. We let your suspension travel initially, but then control the body movement afterward. That way you can have that control of the rocking, but without too harsh of a ride. So now that you've removed your OEM shock on the passenger side, you're going to want to install your new pre-adjusted Super Steer shock. And at this point I want to note that because the new Super Steer shocks are wider at the top, larger in diameter compared to your OEM shocks on the top, you're going to likely need to include a washer in between the top mount of the shock and the subframe of the motorhome. So we're going to go ahead and put this washer on our top mounting bolt first. And now we'll put our shock on. That gives us adequate clearance to the subframe there. And we're going to need to do the same thing on the passenger side. This would be we're using 9/16 washers here. It is a metric bolt, but a 9/16 washer will work. We'll go ahead, start our nut. And at this point, if your shock was compressed, as it would be if you had just adjusted it, you can pull it out. So I've made it a little more difficult on myself here, but just want to show you're just going to want to work with gravity to extend that out. That's why we recommend put it on the top mount first and then just do it the easier way. All right, now we are lined up. We'll put our lower bolt through there. Okay, now that our bolts have been tightened using the impact wrench, we're going to check the torque, set it with our torque wrench. We're setting these at about 120 foot-pounds. And now we'll move on to the other side. All right, now with both of our rear shocks installed and torqued to spec, we're ready to take it for a test drive. So I hope you found this video informative. We're really excited about these new shocks. I hope it was helpful for those of you DIYers out there. And please let us know what you think of them. We would love to hear your feedback on how they're performing. And as always, we wish you safer and happier driving.